Boker Tov. Boker Tuv. Ooh, Tuv. Like spooky. It's like a double O is how the Tuv sounds. According to my theory. And I do have one. I have an unpublished book on the phonetic revelations of the Aleph Beef and how the whole language reveals itself, that we don't need vowel points, so to speak, to tell us how to speak Hebrew. They were never included in any of the actual Torahs, something that they started to do in Babylon, Baval. And ultimately, I would venture as far as to say that it's actually it's a superimposed dialect over the Avarith language. Hi, Mama, you want to come up? You want to come up? Okay, come on. You can come up. Come on. Oh, I know what you want. You know there's another bone here. Can you get it? Come. Aha. There you go. Got knots in my hair. I got caulk in my hair. Gonna do something unusual. I'm gonna talk about my coffee to begin. I'm officially out of half and half after this coffee, so it won't quite be as enjoyable as it usually is for me. Coffee has actually been a form of comfort for me. You know, when you wake up and it's cold, or you're lonely, and you have something that's warm, that warms you, because there's, you know, warmth is a powerful thing. When you spend time cold, especially cold and wet, you realize how special warmth is. And so my coffee is like, it is as or like the warmth of the sunshine when it's absent in my day, or the hug from a love or a child, because those things are all absent in my life. And so I have this coffee is kind of like something that I enjoy for warmth in my life. You're not going to get more bones. You've got dirty, sleepy eyes. You want to come up? Come on. You're just begging because you think there's more. You smell it. You smell there's a half a bone on the counter, but you're not getting it right now. You're not supposed to have cookies for breakfast. So my coffee over the years has evolved, and you want to come up? You can come up. Come on. Gotta lay down though. There you go. This is exactly why my dad got this dog. He really wanted affection, and he wanted a lap dog. And unfortunately, my dad was so ill, and he was so thin and literally just a flesh skeleton for the most part, that he couldn't really even enjoy this little dog on his lap. And the other day, well, it was more than another day, it was a couple weeks ago, maybe even a month or so ago, I was sitting here by the fire, and in the dark, had my dad's shirt on that's over here, the red and blue flannel shirt that is so precious to me that he shaved my beard in. And I was sitting here literally wearing his shirt, wearing his pants, sitting in this cottage that was his until he died. And I'm now being evicted from. I was here for my dad's death, his life, to try to help him in his last bit of life. He finally asked me to come home and literally cried and asked me to come home and help him. And then I had problems getting my ID, and I couldn't get back for several more months. And that's a whole other story that I'll get in. If I get into it now, I'll get sidetracked. But lay down. Come on, baby, lay down. Good girl. There's no more bones for you. That's it. You got sleepy seats. You got sleepy seeds. Yeah. Yes, you do. You're a good girl. So my coffee has evolved over the years. I basically use half and half. I use honey. I use a little butter if I have it. I use even a pinch of salt, sea salt, Celtic sea salt, just a little teeny pinch. I forgot that this morning actually. And cinnamon. And I'm low on honey, so I have purchased as a backup some coconut sugar. And I'm using coconut sugar now with the honey. Lay down, baby. Come on. Lay down. Lay down. Get comfy. Lay down. All right, here she goes. So that's my coffee, and it's kind of close to, I think, what they call bulletproof coffee. Come here. There you go. Hey, come on. What you doing? It's similar to bulletproof coffee. I don't remember what the what his ingredients were for that, but I know it's close. Anyway, it's already 6 minutes into the video, and I'm just chit-chatting, so that's my coffee. Cinnamon, I just want to encourage people that cinnamon, honey is powerful, beautiful, has so much nutritional value. Cinnamon actually helps our stabilize our blood sugar in the blood. I also believe it does more than that. Just intuitively, I've been using cinnamon for the last several years heavily, and it seems to be providing me with a lot of health benefits. Excuse me. And coconut, I know, is a natural antimicrobial as well. So coconut oil is very good. That warmth. Yeah, in regard to my coffee, when I first was back in high school and I started developing exercise-induced bronchospasms, the cold would literally make my lungs like just lock up, and I would just like could barely breathe. And one day I was outside, it was fall, and I was trying to skateboard, and my lungs were locking up, and I just had the intuition to make myself a black coffee. And several years later, I learned that the caffeine is a I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the word, but it opens up the blood, it opens up the lung, the heat and the caffeine itself open and allow for us to have stimulation and relief of constriction in both the lungs and the vascular system. So there are some benefits to caffeine if it's used moderately and intentionally, and it can also be quite addictive. There's been times where I definitely have eaten more or consumed more caffeine than I should, and when I backed off or had to take a break, I had some pretty intense headaches from it. So yesterday I turned and just opened the Bible, and I had an intention to what I was, babe, lay down. Thank you, Mama. That's a good girl. You want your belly rub? Okay. She's not comfortable. She's got to get comfortable, don't you? You got to get comfortable. I can feel her body relaxing a little bit now. She's a little more comfortable once her belly rubbed. But yeah, she's just not comfortable. So yesterday I had a plan to just do a video and read from the first couple Proverbs, because I try to make a habit of diligently reading Proverbs every day, and I haven't been doing it the last few days, maybe even week. And so I was going to read first and second Proverbs, and I opened to Psalms 38, and it just kind of grabbed me, and I want to share it today. Mashallah 38. O Yahuwah, rebuke me not in your wrath, and chasten me not in thy burning anger. For thy arrows have sunk deep into me, and thy hand has pressed down on me. There is no soundness in my flesh because of your indignation. There is no health in my bones because of my sin. For my iniquities are gone over my head. As a heavy burden, they weigh too much for me. My wounds grow foul and fester because of my folly. I am bent over and greatly bowed down. I go mourning all day long, for my loins are filled with burning, and there is no soundness in my flesh. I am benumbed and badly crushed. I groan because of the agitation of my heart. Adonai, all my desire is before you, my judge, and my sign is not hidden from you. My heart throbs, my strength fails me, and the light of my eyes, even that has gone from me. My loved ones and my friends stand aloof from my plague, and my kinsmen stand afar off. Those who see my life lay snares, and those who seek to injure me have threatened destruction, and they devise treachery all day long. So my life. But I, like a deaf man, do not hear, and I am a dumb man who does not open his mouth. Yes, I am like a man who does not hear, and whose mouth are no arguments. For I hope in you, YHUH. Thou wilt answer, O YHUH Eloheinu. For I said, may they not rejoice over me. Who, when my foot slips, will magnify themselves against me? For I am not ready to fall, and my sorrow is continually. For I am ready to fall, and my sorrow is continually before me. For I confess my iniquity, I am full of anxiety. And that word anxiety, there's a reference here. I'm just going to throw it out, but it's 18. It says, or to, let's see, 18a, Psalms 32:5. Let's just go to that really quick. I'm curious because that word anxiety doesn't really resonate. I acknowledge my sin to thee, and my iniquity I did not hide. I said, I will confess my transgressions to YHUH, and you did forgive the guilt of my sin, Selah. So that's true too. I've definitely had many transgressions, but I also was honest about them. And anyway, I'll just finish reading here. For I confess my iniquity, I am full of anxiety because of my sin. But my enemies are vigorous, strong, and many are those who hate me wrongfully, and who repay evil for good. They oppose me because I follow what is good. Do not forsake me, O YHUH, O my Elohim. Do not be far from me. Make haste to help me, O YHUH, my salvation. He is our salvation. His word and his spirit are our two witnesses that establish and sustain us. I had a dream once, more than once, but I had a dream in particular that I'll share with you that only did happen once. And I was asleep in my childhood home, and it was night, and all of a sudden I was just lifted up, and even though I was asleep, it's like I had this awareness of being lifted, and I was lifted up into the night over and above trees, and I was carried, and I had a point of reference in this dream from where my home was, and there was an airport that was near me, and I remember somehow being aware that I was being carried toward this airport, And by this airport is a big forest, and I was set down in this forest in the darkness underneath this tree in a little small clearing. And underneath that tree, then there was this moonlight, and there was just this sense of aloneness and stillness, but also not alone. And I never understood what that dream, what it meant. And I think I had that dream in my early 20s, if not in my late teens, and I think it was actually early 20s. And then later in my life, you know, when I was growing up, my dad, let me back up. When I was growing up, my dad used to share slideshows, and we would have like popcorn and grape juice, and we would watch these slideshows. He'd set up the slide projector on our wall, and it was kind of like movie night. And for me, I always loved seeing like my dad's life and family and our pictures as a family. And I especially loved seeing his pictures of California when he served in California in the Army and worked on the Nike missile system. Before I think he had a medical discharge. He actually had a freak thing where he started to have atrophy of one of in his, I believe it was his right shoulder, the rhomboid, like atrophied. And my dad went through some stuff. I can't talk about my dad, or else I'll just start talking about my dad, because that's a big one. I'm probably gonna have to do like a couple different parts. Are you chewing on that delicious foot? Is that delicious? You need me to cut those nails for you? But I always loved, you know, seeing my dad's videos of California. He was a waterman, I was a waterman, but I didn't even see the ocean until I was 12 years old. And that was in the East Coast. And I think the first time I ever got to California was, I was working for a development company out of Australia called Westfield. And I think that's the first time I ever got to California, was through them. I think we had an offsite meeting. I know one time we had a meeting and we brought family, and we stayed at the Dell down in Coronado. And that was special to me because I'd always wanted to be a Navy frogman. With my love of the water and just, you know, sense of justice, that to me was really what I felt called to do. And then I had decided if I got a scholarship for college that I would take that path and possibly, you know, have a family. If I had a family, I didn't think it would incline me to be a frogman or be in the military. But so ultimately I had a family, and the irony is that I basically gave up my dreams for my family. And then, you know, I can't say I was the best husband. I certainly had transgressions and certainly was not perfect. And yet the way I'm treated was, you would think that I was like this abusive tyrant. And, you know, it's amazing when people, when they drag you, they drag you. And I've been being dragged, you know, for so long. And it's not just my ex, it's my family. You know, they've bought into her narrative, so to speak. And I shared a video this week about that a little bit, and I really, I feel a deep sense of appreciation, because I feel relief from the anger and the resentment and even contempt for those that have just literally falsely accused me and made such bold and brash statements that are just so far from reality that when you hear it as a man, it's almost like what's that guy from Fantastic Four, the Human Torch? It's like flame on, and you're just, you know, you just literally feel, at least for me, I feel like my blood just goes right into fire. And I'm fiery in general. I'm very patient and I'm very chill, but there are, you know, injustice will set my blood, like I'll go red, you know, on injustice. Not necessarily, I can take it if you're abusing me, but when I see you abusing somebody else, that's when I go red. But this, you know, Psalms 38, wow, I just read that the other day, and it's like, wow, you know, wow. It's just so the word, when we sit in it and almost take the view that it's written to us, that it's our history, right? That I'm Abraham, that I'm Isaac, that I'm Jacob, that I'm David, that I'm Lot, and we sit and we go through these readings and these accounts in a spirit that we're not just reading about it as an observer, but we're putting ourselves into that situation. We're putting ourselves mentally into that experience. And that, for me, is when I have been able to have just a shift of paradigm, these aha moments of wow. Like, wow. I thought my life is hard. Our father, Jacob, they call him Jacob, Yaakov, Israel, he literally, this guy had a twin brother that hated him. And his father preferred his brother over him. That's something that's always been tough for me to grasp is how could YHUH favor Ashu? But there's a powerful thing with your firstborn son. There's a powerful connection between the firstborn son and a father. And it's spiritual as well as physical. And he had this brother that hated him, and then his brother didn't have any regard for his birthright, and that's a deep topic because technically his brother was in line for the priesthood and the kingship, which is called the Malach Sadiq, or the order of the Malach Sadiq, the righteous king, and that's effectively it's the firstborn son from Adam down throughout history. That is technically that's the sovereign king of earth, is whoever that firstborn son is. Now they can lose that position. They can be disqualified as Cain. He was the firstborn. He would have been Malach Sadiq after Adam, but because he killed his brother Haval, he disqualified himself. Haval would have been next in line, and then there was no Haval, so then they had to wait until they had Seth. And then Seth became, after Adam passed, then Seth became the Malach Sadiq. That's my understanding anyway. People want to say that because they say that he doesn't have a genealogy, which in the Torah it doesn't explain where he came from. Paul, I don't know if this is actually legitimate or somebody added it, but Paul asserts that was Messiah, that he somehow was this figure that has always been around. I personally don't subscribe to that. I don't see any evidence of that, and we're told by a witness of two or more as a thing is established. And but I'm not perfect, and I certainly don't presume to be, and there's a lot I still need to learn myself and am learning. But Yaakov, think about this guy's life. Brother hates him. His brother ends up giving his birthright, then he tricks his father and steals his blessing. His mom said, "Let it be my sin, but do this." Like, she knew. So then he goes to get his wife, and he gets tricked. So he gets some of his own karma, so to speak. And his love, Rachel, is held back from him, and he ends up marrying her sister. Now, a lot of people say her sister was ugly, but the Bible has language, for example, like ugly or hated, that doesn't mean like that you're literally hated. It just means, like, for example, you're loved less, or you're not as favored. So I don't know that Leah was ugly, literally, but in the sense that she didn't find a man that wanted her as the eldest before her younger sister. It would be a kind of poetic way in Hebrew to say that she was ugly. So he ends up getting tricked, wakes up, finds that he's got the wrong woman, and he's married to the wrong woman, and he just agreed to work 7 years for her. So 7 years of his life is committed. He's got the wrong wife, the wrong woman, and then to get the right woman, he has to work another 7 years. Well, that's interesting, because 7 plus 7 is 14. That's an allusion or a foreshadowing, I believe, of Dude Malak, King David, because his name is equal to 14. It's yeah, it's literally 4 attached to 4, and the attachment or the woe or the vav is 6, so it's 4 plus 6 plus 4. It's also perfect symmetry, which is, this is actually called Magen Dud, Shield of David, because in the ancient Hebrew, the triangle, and I'm not doing this, but the triangle was the ancient letter Daleth, or doorway. And so what they did was, for David's sign, they took 2 of these Daleths, they inverted them, they made them together, they put the vav in the middle, the woe in the middle, and it becomes the shield of David. A lot of people mistake this for the star of Remphan or Ramaphan, which is not. That's the 8-pointed star that you see on the Anunnaki stuff in what is it, the Samaritan tablets and things like that. That's the, as I understand it, that's the 8-pointed star. So he goes through all this trickery, right? And then even while he's there working, his stepdad is basically stealing from him and giving him hardship. They have all kinds of history, and then finally he decides, I'm going to grab my stuff and go. I'm going to run. So he literally flees. He gathers up his family. He gathers up his flocks that he's worked for 14 years. And Laban is gone, and he bolts, right? And he's on his way back home. And then his father-in-law comes after him, like to do him harm. And like they sit down and they have this feast and like they make peace. But he's like, dude, you're done. You're done. You're going to basically have to kill me. I'm not going to be your slave. And I'm sorry, I'm going back home. So he goes back home, and then on his way back home, right, he's got to worry about, you licking my long johns? He's got to worry about his brother Ashu now, commonly called Esau. And he's afraid. And this is one thing I have some beef with Father Yaakov about. He put his children at the front of the caravan, so to speak, and he put, for those that have military mind or whatever, the point man position, the guy that's up front, the guy that's leading in the way, when you run into danger, that point man's the guy. He's in the face of it. He's in the front of it. Those guys have the highest chance of mortality, as I understand it, than anybody else in the platoon, so to speak. So he puts his children up on point, but who does he put on point? He puts on point the children of his handmaidens, then the children of Leah, and then Rachel, his favored wife. So it's almost like he shields himself and creates a class structure of these children. And as I'm saying this, it's hitting me harder of why Joseph's brothers, why they were inclined to be so jealous and hateful towards him. Their father basically acted like their lives, he almost like used them as human shields. And this shows us that these guys, these men, were not perfect in their lives. Our lives are the refinement to a point. It's a whole process. And a lot of the stuff in the Word that we read reveals that these guys were not living their lives the way that they should have been. And that brought in sin. That sin brought in consequences, curses. But those curses, with a proper heart, we will respond to those curses as discipline. We will learn from it. We will be refined from it, versus rebelling and hardening our heart and stiff-arming and saying, no, I'm not going to learn from that. I don't, no. It's when we're open and we say, okay, I'm wrong. I see that. I'm wrong. Thank you. I'm sorry. And when we are humble to confess our sin, he says that, and confess and turn from our sin, he's faithful to forgive and wash us of our sins. And a lot of people don't realize that confessing sin is really meaningless if we don't turn from it. And this is one of my grievances with my ex, is that I confessed my sin. I brought it forward. I turned from it. I didn't continue to be that man. Yeah, you want to condemn me, and you want to condemn me 10, 20 years later for something that I can't change, that I'm the one that I brought to your attention, that I'm the one that I said I was sorry. You know, I realized that you had your experience, but I also had mine as well. And maybe if we had gone through those experiences together in love and had forgiveness for one another through our shortcomings, through our sin, through our betrayals, and we actually honored our vow for better or for worse until death do us part, then maybe we would have also reaped fruits and benefits from that persistence, that steadfastness, that faithfulness, even in the face of unfaithfulness or in the face of betrayal. But Yaakov, I mean, this guy went through so much, and then he finally he's on his way home and he sees his brother Ashu, and instead of having a battle, you know, they greet each other, they make peace, and he comes home and then he starts to establish his life. You're licking my leg, it's getting all wet. I spilled something in my long johns, and she's just going to town licking it. You giving me a bath? Maybe that's what you're doing. You're giving me a bath. I think you probably like it too. She's such a little kooky. Little cookie. Your face is out of there. Can we see your face? There it is. There it is. So Yaakov, I mean, now, and also his favored wife, Rachel, her womb is closed. So Leah has children first, and then his handmaidens, and then finally he has Yusuf, and he's delighted, right? The woman that he actually loves. It says he cried when he met Rachel. When he meets Rachel and cries, it's such an intense connection that they have. And so why would a man not necessarily have a favored child? It doesn't mean that he doesn't love his sons, but it's, you know, it's natural for us to have, you know, deep connection when we share something in common, when we have common bonds. Like, you know, my son was always clearly, you know, his mama's boy. Like she, I believe, really almost had him for herself. It seemed like, you know, and he, you know, he was, when he was a little baby, he really didn't want a lot to do with me. You know, I would hold him and stuff like that, but there were a lot of times where he would be in his mom's arms, and if I reached for him, it was like, I don't want dad, you know, I want mom. And it was like, wow, that stung, because you know, but my daughter was always, you know, she was always my little angel, and it's hard, you know, hard to be estranged from her, especially after us having such a, what I thought was a sacred bond. But to favor doesn't mean that you don't love. It just means you have something special between you, and favor is a real thing in life. And so he has this favorite son, Yusuf, and then what happens? He makes him a special cloak. He makes him a cloak of multiple colors, and gives him something special to wear that's a sign that he is going to be this Malach Tzaddik, that he is going to receive the inheritance, the birthright, the blessing of the firstborn son. Now Yusuf was the firstborn of Rachel, so he is a firstborn. Oh, baby needs to go out. Pardon me 1 second. You want to go out? Yeah. Okay. Good girl. Good girl. She'll probably bark in about 5 or 10 minutes and want to come back in, but I see some water stains on the cottage roof over there. So she completely soaked my leg and my long johns here. So now we've got Yusuf, and he starts having these dreams. He starts demonstrating spiritual gifts, and those dreams and what they suggest are I mean, imagine telling your brothers of a dream where there's 10 brothers and you're the 11th, and you literally have this dream that's a symbol and a picture of them bowing before you. You know, and they already don't like you. They already resent you. So imagine what that would do. Like I can't reveal, even in my life, I can't reveal the things that some of the stuff that he is, that's happened to me or she's shared, or the experiences that I've had, because people just, they literally demonize you. It's like this whole concept of Mashiach now and within Judaism, it's such a joke. They wouldn't know. It's almost like you wouldn't know Messiah if he slapped you in the face. Because the value system of the people is still, it's on material things. It's like they want, why do they even want Messiah now? Why do they even say Mashiach now? Is it because they want deep revelation into things that are unknown, or is it because they want to have they believe that Messiah is going to give them all the blessing of the inheritance in the land, and that there's going to be no war, and they're just going to have all these blessings? No, that's not what Messiah is going to do. That's not what Messiah is going to do. You can have all those blessings if you just humble ourselves. If we just humble ourselves and obey. But they won't obey. They won't obey. But they'll say, Mashiach now. Hey, you get out of that chair. You're stealing my chair. Come on, get down. Now you can come up, you goofball. Okay, let me give her a cookie. They'll say Mashiach now, right? That's how they say it in modern, Moshiach. There's no Elaf and Vav before the Keith. They add all these extra vowels to words. Mashik. So they say Mashiach now, but they don't want Mashiach, because Mashiach is just what is like Moses. It's like, what did Moses say? He said, hey, here's the law, do it. Joshua, Yoshua, he brought them into the land, and they only kept the Torah for one generation. One generation. That's why we're cursed. For lack of obedience, for lack of reverence, for not hearing and doing. The Almighty says very clearly over and over again, be careful to obey my commands, and be careful to keep my statutes. So what? So that it will be well with you. But who's willing to actually do it? We say the Shama Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Echad, Ehavat Etha, Yahuwah Eloheinu, B'kol Levavak, with all our heart, B'kol Nefeshak, with all our soul, B'kol Medak, with all our might. But then we'll have Pesach with lamb that's been broken or cut up, and it's not even a kosher Pesach. So Joseph now has these dreams, and his family is offended. His family is offended. Oh, look at you. You think you're better than everybody else. Oh, look at you. Look at you. Let me tell you something. Anybody that really is Mashiach is going to have so much resistance, because men don't want another man over them. They don't want to submit to authority. They want to be their own king. Mashiach now. Whatever. How about this? How about Torah now? How about Thurah now? How about his commands and statutes now? And how about doing it without adding or taking away? How about that now? Then maybe you'll warrant a Mashiach. So Joseph has these dreams, He gets ostracized from his family. It's like pouring on gasoline onto the fire. Now his brothers hate him even more. I can hear him grumbling. Can you believe that son of a bitch? We're gonna bow down to him. Blah 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 blah. Look at him with his color. Look at him with his cloak. He thinks, look at daddy's boy. These guys literally hated their brother. They hated their brother. When they were hating their brother, were they considering their father Yaakov? Did they consider why, possibly, Yaakov had favor for this young boy? Why? That maybe they should take pride in that this is our little brother, that this is our dad's, like, this is really his firstborn. This is our king. This is our king. But no, instead, jealousy. Jealousy. Hate. Hey. That's all. No more cookies. You gotta eat your real food. So then we get to the point where now he's had his dreams. He's revealed his dreams. He's even more hated among his brothers. And his father he catches his brothers cheating, lying, being dishonest. And because he tells his father the truth, they hate him even more. They hate him even more. Why shouldn't he tell his father the truth if he loves his father? What should he do? What they wanted is they wanted him to be like them. They wanted him to come down to their level instead of them coming up to his level. And how would they come up to his level? Well, they come up to his level by actually acknowledging him and loving his father and being true and being a good brother. Because at the end of the day, if he is the firstborn, if he is the king, and he has a feast, as his father would have a feast, everybody's there. Everybody gets to sit down. Everybody gets to eat the food. So there's a different order at the table. Guess what? With leadership comes responsibility. But it's not enough that you're sitting at the table of the king. It's not enough that you're eating the king's food. You want this authority. You want this recognition. You want these blessings, this favor, but you don't want the responsibility of it. That's exactly what that's exactly what Esau's life represented. He wanted to go out in the field and do his own thing. He didn't want to study Torah. He wanted to go out and have fun. He wanted to do what he enjoyed. He wanted to go hunt and enjoy the hunt and eat the meat and the fruit of his hunt, and didn't want to be responsible for anybody else. And so his birthright didn't mean anything to him. But the blessing he wanted, because he wanted to live that life selfishly, but he wanted it with blessing. And his mom was like, no, your dad might be down with that, but no, I'm part of this equation too. And no, you don't warrant that blessing, so your brother's going to get it. And so he got it. But to whom much is given, much is expected. Having that birthright, having that blessing isn't just a free ride to luxury and like everything that people want when they associate stardom with Hollywood and the things of stardom in the world. No. In Yah's kingdom, the firstborn son, the king, he's a servant. He's a servant. He has to be willing to lay his life down. Abraham did what? When his nephew was kidnapped, he left behind everything and took his men and went and jeopardized his own life and went and attacked 5 kings. 5. And destroyed them. And then refused the booty from the king over the land that he lived because he didn't want to be established by another man. He didn't want another man to say, baby, lay down in my lap. Come on, lay down. Lay down. Your claws are grabbing my feet or my legs here. Come on, there you go. Lay down. There you go. Okay, come here. Give me your belly. Give me your belly. Let's go. Give me your belly. Yeah, give it to me. There you go. You can't get comfortable, I'll make you comfortable. Yes. There you go. Here you go. It's funny. You can feel, in the body of an animal or a person, you can feel when they're tense and don't feel safe. And you can feel when they relax and they feel safe. And she's like 50% right now. She's like 50%. Yeah. When I used to roll her over in rubber belly, she would be very tense, didn't really know me, hadn't fully accepted me. Now that she's accepted me and is more familiar and comfortable with me, she's more relaxed. But I don't know what her history was, but Dad said she had some trauma. He found her at the pound. It's trauma just being in the pound. Huh. I might be going to the pound. Yeah. If I do, what's going to happen to you? Huh? I'm worried about that. That's one thing. I know I don't have to worry, but I want you to be okay. I don't want you to go through more trauma. I don't want you to miss me. Yeah, I don't want you to be worried. So to really put ourselves in the perspective, the experience, the life of Yaakov is to imagine what is it like to have your brother want to kill you, to have your father-in-law cheat you and enslave you, to have your sons hateful, to their brother, and then ultimately, when he sent Yusuf to go and to check and to make sure everything was okay, they saw him coming. They plotted to kill him. They were going to murder him. And then the older brother was like, "No, we can't let that happen. So let's put him in a pit." So then ultimately, they decide not to kill him. Let's throw him in this pit. And then, hey, I got an idea. Let's sell him into slavery. Let's sell him to these Ishmaelites, our brother Ishmaelite. Let's sell him to these Arabs, and let them take him away, and we'll be rid of ourselves of this younger brother that's going to be king over us. They would rather have done that and had one of their own over them than the Sadiq, the righteous one, the one who was actually had the birthright, and it was who ultimately decides that. The Father, the Heavenly Father, is the one that decides who's born when, of whom, when the soul comes into the world, and whose parent it is. So, for them to reject their brother and his natural order was for them to reject the Most High and His order, and reject their father's order and authority. So when these 10, because Benjamin had not been born yet, so it was 10 plus 1, it was 10 against 1, really, 11 brothers, but out of these 11 brothers, 10 were against the Most High Yah, their father, and their brother. So these 10 were against Yah, their father, and their brother. That's an amazing testimony against them, and yet they are still considered holy tribes. They were ultimately redeemed by a brother, saved by their brother. A foreshadowing of Mashiach, or Mashiach. As that's exactly who and what Yusuf is. His whole life is a potent life. It's the meat of what the first book, Bereshith or Genesis, is really about Yusuf, and his father Yaakov, and the Most High Yah. 3 and 3, Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Elohim, Yaakov, Israel, Yusuf, his 10 brothers that hated him. These are a picture of men who reject us. These are a picture of brothers who say that they love us, but they don't show up. They talk and they serve us with their mouths, but they don't serve us with their hearts and their hands. These guys literally sold their brother into slavery and then went and bought sandals with the money. Bought sandals, bought leather sandals. Yeah, ask a rabbi why we don't wear leather sandals on Yom Kippur and see what they tell you. They won't mention Yusuf, but it has everything to do with Yusuf. Because the rabbinic order is actually perpetuating the problem. The rabbinic order takes what's been accepted and commonplace and they regurgitate it over and over and over and over, and it becomes the accepted reality. Well, why do we need tikkun? Why do we need rectification if you already have it correct? If you repeat a program that's broken, you're going to continue to have something that's broken. And we are truly broken as a people, as a kingdom, as a nation, as men, as sons, as fathers, and as brothers. We are broken. And we need tikkun, we need rectification. You hear something? Don't you go up there. No. You want to go out? She thinks she hears somebody or something. She's going to want to go check it out. All right, it's almost an hour, so I gotta get with this. So ultimately, this share today, it's part of my testimony, and it's part of a testimony as a revelation. So I'm revealing the things that shape me. I'm revealing the things that form in me as a man, and this is one of the greatest stories that has formed me as a man. In my teshuvah is the story of Yusuf. The story of his father, the story of his brothers, and recognizing what these things mean in terms of symbols, archetypes, where we failed, and what we need to do to correct that failure. And so here's where I think it gets interesting with the story of Yusuf. You know, my question is, and one of my favorite quotes is, those who wish to succeed must first ask the right preliminary questions, which was Aristotle, a Greek. If any of those 10 brothers had actually loved their father, what could they have done to remedy or rectify their lawlessness, their sin against their father, against their brother, and against Elohim? When I think about that, it's quite profound. And not only did these guys sell their brother for sandals, they also swore a death oath that whoever told the truth that they would murder. When they did that, they cursed their father to a false reality, which is a form of witchcraft. Witchcraft is taking your will and imposing it over someone else through whatever means you utilize. That is ultimately what witch or warlock craft is. It is doing evil, which is perverting reality, twisting reality for your own personal gain, no matter what the expense is, no matter what the cost is, no matter what the repercussions are, because that's how selfish and self-centered you are, that you're willing to allow someone else the torture of living in a false reality for your own pleasure or gain. and this is an abomination. So, if any of those brothers had actually loved their respected Elohim, their father, and their brother, what could they have done? They could have told the truth. They could have risked everything. I'm going to tell you the truth, Dad. And guess what? If they had said, look, I'm telling you the truth, I'm coming clean, and I'm doing it in front of all these guys right here in front of you, Dad, and I can't perpetuate this lie, this sin against you anymore, are they going to then kill him? If they did, they're going to make them. They're all going to be guilty. It's obvious then at that point why he was killed and what happened. So the safety was actually in telling the truth. The perception, the false safety, is the perception. That's the lie is something that you can find safety in. No, the lie is going to lead you to death. It's just a matter of when and how. So they could have told their father the truth, or they could have left and gone and searched for their brother, gone and found him, given up their life, their own pleasure, and gone and looked for their brother to make it right. How many Yahudim that are in the land today are looking and opening the door for the brothers who are lost to bring them home into the land of their inheritance? Even when I beg and say I want to come home, I get ignored. Ignored by men who are teaching, facing each other, teaching the lost tribes, these men, Yair Davidi, who won't even return and respond to an email. Ariel Cohen, Aloro, who basically acknowledges me, but treats me like I'm some kind of Messiah syndrome wackadoodle. You know, I'm using their names publicly because these are men in public who have ministry. Facing each other is a beautiful concept. But when the guy that's behind it won't even put it into practice himself, what is going on? When you've got a man talking about bringing the 10 tribes home, and you've got somebody that's saying, hey, I'm one of those guys. I woke up. I know who I am. I've returned to Torah. I'm Shavas Shomer. Like, for 6 years without a rabbi, without a father teaching me, I went back to my father and instructed him and got him to return to Sabbath. That's unnatural for a son to be a teacher to his father. That's unnatural. That's disorder. You can come up. Come on. She wants food, but she won't eat it without something in it, and I don't have anything to put in it. I don't have any tuna juice or any half and half to mix with your food. You're so fussy now. This my testimony connects so deeply with the series that I started on father, son, brother, because first there's a father, then there's a son, and then there's the possibility of being a brother. And this is the process. This is the process of a man to be a son, to be a brother, and to be a father. It's this trifecta, this dimensionality of the three that gives us dimension, that gives us perspective, that gives us shape and form. But ultimately, we must love our Father in principle, which is our Creator. We're to honor our parents, our mother and our father, which are ultimately called one, echad, just like this. They're interwoven together. They're two, but they're one. Red and blue, masculine and feminine. And to love one another. And yet, how many of us are willing to do this? To truly do this in a selfless way? How many of us are willing to open our hand to others? Even when we have abundance, so few are willing to open their hand, and yet the rabbis teach that charity is the act of redemption, that charity and giving is literally one of our acts of redemption. And yet, when there's a need, so many will turn their eye from it. And unfortunately, it's like the Messiah gave the parable of the wealthy man and the poor man. And this wealthy man would pass over the poor man at his gate, and he would see him there dirty and hungry, and he would just walk over him. And he wouldn't open his hand to him. He saw him as a less than. Well, I've experienced this in my life. I've gone from being an all-American athlete, as my father said, an accomplished athlete, an accomplished businessman, to then choosing to follow him regardless of the cost, choosing to make this vow to not cut my hair, to be a Nazyr, knowing that that would affect my marketability, knowing that that would affect my image in the corporate world, where my image would not be so widely acceptable, knowing that that could create problems for me, people thinking you're a stoner, or people thinking you're a vagabond or a hippie, all these false labels that come with my vow as a Nazyr. I've seen the cost firsthand to be a servant to him. I've seen and experienced the rejection of first friends. It's first friends because your friends are kind of, as an adult, your friends are your little sphere of influence around you. Your family is like this connection, depending on how close you are physically and otherwise with your family. But in this society, we tend to, move away from our family and stay in touch, but we have our own little lives and our own little kingdoms. And within those kingdoms, our friends become our family, so to speak. So what happens first? Your friends, you're no longer drinking with them and carousing with them and doing the things that they used to do and enjoy to do together. So now it's like oil and water don't mix. So you lose all that. They shut away like an onion. These layers just shut away from your life. As your friends alienate themselves from you and you become alienated from your friend, it also affects your livelihood, because relationships, and especially in business, a lot of these relationships in business are formed through dining, indulgence, going out partying, Las Vegas, whining and dining. That's part of the business world. And when you're not a whiner and diner, you can have integrity, but you got to be selling something and have something really good that they want. Otherwise, you're not in. And then your family sees your worldly life affected. They see you not making the same money. They see you not having that, 6-figure job and income. They see that you're struggling, and then they just assume that you're making bad choices, when really you're making the choice to follow him no matter what the cost. The thing that they said in churches and synagogues and in our lives that we talk about doing, but when you actually do it, then they reject you and condemn you and literally judge you and say, oh, you're not making good decisions. You should just cut your hair and get a job. Your problems will be over. You've made over $200,000, so why can't you just get a job? Well, what if he doesn't want me to have a job? What if he's closed the doors on these jobs that I thought would be perfect for me or that I wanted? Because I can tell you that's exactly what's happened. There's been so many jobs where I've thought, oh wow, this would be perfect for me, and it wasn't perfect for me. So then our families start to ostracize us and condemn us and distance themselves from us, and then even our children. Even our children treat us as dead. At least that's how I'm treated by mine, and I'm not condemning them. I'm just speaking the truth. I'm sure that in their minds, well, I can't be sure of anything, but I would imagine that in their minds that they somehow think that they're right in what they're doing and or just living in denial. I mean, I lived in that place for a long time. And when we're not doing what's right, we need things like games or alcohol or sex or a job, money. We need those things to lose ourselves in so that we're not facing the reality of our life. That it's not consistent with what's in our heart, what's in our mind, what's in our character. And so if any of those brothers had loved Joseph, they would have gone and looked for him. They would have told their father the truth. And then what happened? Bereshith 42. They're having a famine. And Yaakov says, why are you guys sitting around doing nothing? Have you heard there's food in Egypt? Why don't you guys go down to Egypt and get some food for us? So he sends them down to Egypt. And guess what happens? His brother knows that they're going to be coming. His brother's looking for them, but they weren't looking for him. They actually do go look for him now because they're like, we might run into him now. We might have to be confronted with our lawlessness, our sin now. We got to keep our eyes open. So they were looking for him. But they didn't see him. They didn't recognize him. Even when they sat down in front of him, even when he put them in order at the table, he recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. You're not going to recognize Messiah. You're not going to recognize his servant, Yehuda, Ephraim, because he already showed us all 10 of those brothers did not recognize Yusuf when he was in Egypt. How are you going to recognize Mashiach? He's not going to be doing miracles. The servant of Mashiach, sorry. It says he's not going to be out there making himself known in the streets. So how would you recognize him? I'm just asking, Brother Yehuda, how would you recognize him or his servant? You're not looking for him. You think that he's going to come to you and make himself known to you. Why would he do that? When you're living in lawlessness. When you abuse the sojourner in your land, when you don't walk with Thurah in your land, when you allow abomination to be prominent in your land, in our land, in our inheritance. The footstool of the Most High Yah, where he rests his feet, and you allow abomination there. And say that Thurah is alive in the land. No. My testimony is that I've found few and far between a brother that really loves me, that also really loves my father. Now I see men who are searching, but I test them and I haven't found one. I haven't found one that's either really honoring him with everything, no matter the cost, and who will show up for their brother when they know that their brother is in a need, has a need. I haven't found one. And yet I just posted a test on Facebook because I'm so tired of these men who share the word and put themselves in a place where they're teaching or spreading the word, and it's almost like they lift themselves up that, we're coming out of apostasy and we're condemning the church and we're doing these things, but yet, are you loving your brother? Are you loving the brother that you know has a need? Are you loving your brother that's right there at your doorstep? Or are you busying yourself with vanity and self-promotion, basically? Your own interests, over literally recognizing that to be a king, you need to serve your brother in love. Love for your father and love for your brother. It's hard to talk about some things because there's still a sense of pride. I don't think it's unhealthy pride, but there's still a sense of pride there's also the aspect of not wanting to bring shame upon people, not wanting to bring shame upon my family, upon friends who have abandoned me, ignored me. And yet the truth is that I've been abandoned, ignored, falsely accused, homeless now for going on 5 years, living out of a broken down van where my own father, my own flesh and blood, would give $10,000 to my stepbrother to help him, but wouldn't even give me $1,000 to help me get my van so that I could actually drive it, because I sleep in it. It has to be lifted to replace the fuel filters. If it goes into the shop, where do I sleep? And anyway, I don't have the money for it to go into the shop. And yet, despite that, I've got the state of New Jersey and New York trying to say that I'm in contempt of court for not paying child support of $300 a week, despite the fact that my children are 20 and 23 years old. And yet they completely ignore my need. Premia facie, looking at the appearance, looking at the paper without doing any actual due diligence of a fiduciary. A fiduciary has a responsibility to do due diligence, not just push paper. A judge has a responsibility to do discovery, not just push paper and make threats and abuse someone because on paper it looks like I owe $68,000, but the reality is that I haven't. You've been imputing me child support on an income $75,000 that I haven't earned since what? Since when? With no inquiry, with no discovery, with no questions as to when I answer the question, are you employed? No. There is no follow-up question. Why not? Why not? I'll tell you why not. I'm blind in my left eye. I haven't been able to get a driver's license as a result of it. I don't have an insured vehicle. I don't have a registered vehicle. All my clothes, for the most part, any of my clothes, professional clothes, were all damaged, and I lost them to mold in the rain. I didn't even have a pair of, I used to have beautiful dress shoes. I didn't even have a pair of dress shoes with me. And so I've done what I can. I took jobs here and there. I took care of dogs. I did landscaping, or I did light construction. I took little teeny jobs. I didn't even have tools. Didn't even have tools, but for a drill and a power driver. And a few little assorted things. Like, I didn't have a way to go and make a living. I didn't have a way to get a job and to keep it, because I didn't have a base. I didn't have shelter. I didn't have clothing. I didn't have tools, transportation. All I had was food. Food and some clothes. I mean, everything I'm wearing right here today, except for the hat, was given to me by an actual brother who cared about me. Given to me. And yet, my stepmother, who literally in 2015 stood out here and told me that this cottage was my inheritance, right out here in 2015, which I was really was shocked. Why would you be telling me this instead of my father? Because I already assumed that, but why would you be telling me that? And my own sister telling me that conversation, or telling other people in my family that conversation never happened, even though she wasn't here. And yet now she's evicting me, knowing that I don't have a way to even get back to California with my things. And the inheritance that my dad said that he was going to give to me, you gave to other people and didn't give me a dime. And yet on her door, it says a sign, "He lives." And when I put water on her doorstep, because I don't even have fresh water here, she refused to fill up the 3 gallons that I left for water for over a week, despite that the Messiah said that if you give even a glass of water to one of these, your reward will not go unpaid. Yet you deny me water and say you want his will. You know what his will is, because it says in his word, honor your husband, and yet you dishonored my husband. You dishonored my father. You dishonored your husband. You even undermined him, went behind your back, and in writing said, I know that John, my dad, would absolutely not approve. Her own words, I know he would absolutely not approve of me reaching out and communicating to you. Then why did you do it, woman? If you know that he would absolutely not approve. Because she's a Jezebel. She's a Jezebel. And Jezebel did not have a good end. I, whether I like it or not, bear witness. Just like every person who has a need and someone doesn't open their hand to them and they have the ability to do it, we all become a witness against those who didn't do what they could, who didn't do what's right. And people want to sit here and point the finger at me and tell me that I haven't taken care of my children. I've never withheld one good thing from my children that was within my means. Yes, I had circumstances that were beyond my control. They're going to try to say that I chose it. They're going to try to say that I literally chose to be homeless, that it's contempt of court. They're going to try to say that you chose this. You wanted to be in California living in a broken down van so that you could surf. Yet I've only surfed, not in the last year, not even once. Twice. You want to come up? Come on. Sorry. She's distracting me. You want to come up? It was painted out that I was out playing in California, that I was out surfing in California. My surfboards were even broken. Didn't have the ability, didn't even have money to get the fiberglass to fix them. Didn't even have a friend that would help me actually fix my surfboard. One guy even broke one of my surfboards and literally never made it right until finally one day he helped me, like literally 2.5 years later, helped me do a hard fiberglass fin on the back. But it took 2.5 years for this guy to make right when he broke my classic 1968 single fin surfboard. For 2.5 years, he didn't make it right. And that's the kind of brothers I'm dealing with in life. So I don't mean to take this into a rant. I'm sharing. It is about my story. It is about my testimony and what's happening to me in my life. It's upsetting because it's unjust. But honestly, and I'm going to bring it back and close here. This is where I'm now having peace. Because yes, the injustice is upsetting. But it's also his way of refining me and answering my prayer to be his servant. And so I had to know what my master went through before me. I had to learn what it was like for Messiah to be rejected. What it was like for Moses, Masha, to try to rule and to lead and guide an unruly, rebellious people. What it was like for Yusuf to be abandoned and betrayed by his brothers. What it was like for Yaakov to have his own children betray and dishonor him. I had to learn these things and experience these things in order to become his servant. And that's why, despite all of these things, why I'm truly thankful, even for the blessings and the curses. Because the curses, when we keep our heart and our soul and our might for him, even the curses will serve us. We may not see it, we may not be able to see it, but if we believe that he is in control, that all things work together to good for those who love and obey him, those who honor and serve him, when we believe that, then we can have freedom. And I'm thankful for the freedom to see that all what I've asked for, all that I've asked for from him has been answered, not in the way that I thought it was going to be, but in his perfect way, in his way, in the way he knows best. And it's up to me to be submissive to that as a son and to love him and say, okay, this really sucks, but I love you. Help me to be as honey and not vinegar. Help me to be fearless as a lion as your word says, the righteous will be bold as a lion, but and while the wicked or the evil, the lawless flee when no one pursues. So, Father, thank you for this day, and I pray, Father, that this message might reach someone. I pray this message might encourage a brother to go out and seek his brother. I pray, Father, that this message would pierce the heart of Yehuda, that Yehuda, Father, would go out and seek after his younger brother Ephraim and bring him home. Give him the law, Father. I pray that Yehuda would his pride, that he would put his pride upon the shelf or bury it, even better said, bury it, Father, that he would go and give his knowledge of the Torah to his younger brother Ephraim, that Ephraim can receive his proper inheritance, Father, and no longer exclude Ephraim from the land, but that they would be bound together as one for your glory, Father, for the glory of the Father, because it's his will that his sons would face one another and be as one and stand together as these two branches, these two olive branches, these two menorah, that these two brothers, Father, from two different women would be as one, red and blue, to become purple together, Father. I thank you and I praise your holy name. Amen. I will sing you a new song. I will sing you a new song. I will sing you a new song. I will sing. O my King, to you I will sing. To you, O my King, I will sing. O my King, to you I will sing. To you, O my King, I will sing. I will sing you a new song. I will sing you a new song. I will sing you a new song, O my King. O my King, to you I will sing. To you, O my King, I will sing. O my King, to you, O my King. To you, O my King, I do sing. Praise Yah, hallelujah.